So once again, this is Jon Wright with Farmers Talk, and I am thrilled that Marjorie and Marian have taken the time and allowed us to come down and visit with them. This is Marian and Marjorie from Orb Weaver Farm, and you guys introduce yourselves and tell us a little bit about the farm and your history here and all that you do.
All that we do, wow. My name's Marjorie Susman, and Marian and I have been here since 1981. We actually moved here for a farm job, and after we were here for about a year, the people offered to sell it to us. And we knew somehow that we wanted to make cheese, we wanted to grow vegetables, and we wanted to do everything on a pretty small scale. And we've been doing that. You know, obviously over the years we've changed. We used to ship milk. We used to ship milk from 30 cows and make the cheese and do a much bigger vegetable garden than we do now. But, you know, it's ebbed and it's flowed, and this is where we're at now, which is a great place to be.
You've arrived.
We've arrived.
Well, in 1995, we were making cheese in a sort of sporadic fashion. We'd take a few months off, and then we'd make it, and then we'd sell that, and then we would make it again. And we just sort of started thinking we weren't able to do as much cheese as we wanted, and the demand wasn't being met. And so we sold the bulk of our herd to a fellow in Virgins. So the cows got on a truck and went 3 miles that way, and we kept, at that time, 4. And started milking seasonally. So all our cows calve in November, and we milk them through the winter and into the spring, and at the end of May they are dried off and they go out to their rotational pastures. And we have a vegetable garden where we raise a limited number of items and sell most of it to the Middlebury Food Co-op.
And how we even thought of that, I'm not even sure. We thought, oh, how cool is this? We'll go to Vermont and we'll make cheese. We'll be farmers.
Wow.
And we learned in a vacuum. I mean, it was like getting thrown into the deep end of a pool. And the first time we went to make cheese in our vat, we filled it up with water to make sure it would heat up, and it did okay. And then we
took a one-day cheese-making workshop with Ricky Carroll. It was like the first one she'd ever done. And
so that was in 76.
Yeah,
or 77.
And she worked on a dairy farm in Massachusetts, and we'd come home with milk and just make stuff in the kitchen and give it to the dogs if it wasn't good. And then even here, when we first got here, we made it in the kitchen and kept like copious notes. We still have them in some notebook somewhere, because there was nobody to tell us what to do. We just did it.
Yeah.
Have you ever thought about writing a book to document some of your...
No. I thought about it a little bit, and then I thought I don't really have a book in me. I have a little blog that I do, and that's kind of fun. I enjoy that a lot. Quite frankly, I would never want to go on a book tour.
Yeah.
You
wouldn't. My sense is you wouldn't, and you would still sell out.
No, that's so sweet.
It seems sort of mandatory.
And it's been done. I mean, everybody's writing about. I mean, all the people like of our age that are thinking, okay, what now? Oh, I'll write a book.
Yeah, but every story is unique.
Yeah.
You guys
I know, but
certainly
how
have
many
a
people
wonderful...
really want to read that?
I would read it.
Okay.
Go.
So yeah, tell me a little bit about your first experiences coming up here. It must have been a little bit of a transition, moving into the community and being 2 women that were dairy farmers and wanting to make cheese. What was that? Did the community embrace you? Was there...
Not immediately. I think they were skeptical. I think we had like problems getting loans initially, like FHA. They were kind of skeptical, and then we had
we got the first Vita loan. The first Vita loan that was for farmers.
But only after
they
Emery Hebert, who was...
Oh, wait, you don't want to say his name. You want to
not around anymore. He was a big skeptic about it.
Yeah. Well, if it's any consolation, he was skeptical of me as well.
He said, yeah, but you girls, it's going to be the middle of winter, and what's going to stop you from going to Florida?
Well, and they turned us down, and then
Yeah.
like 2 weeks later, they called us back and said we've changed our mind
Reconsidered.
because
Ah.
I think I don't know exactly what that process was about.
But however, we had a fabulous fellow from FHA, Joe Spalding, and he pretty much from the get-go believed that we could do it.
Mm-hmm.
And he was fabulous and a great help. And I went to ag school. I don't think I mentioned this before, but we were down in Western Mass in the 70s. And I went to Stockbridge School of Agriculture, which is a 2-year land grant school at UMass Amherst. And we were able to borrow money interest-free. They have a great, do you know about that? A great
I think
program.
you've told me about this before, yeah.
Lotta Crabtree, who was a saloon dancer around the gold rush time, died and left millions of dollars, and some of it for new farmers, not women, but just new farmers. And we were able to borrow. And so, like, right from the get-go, we got help from a woman guardian angel, which I think was a good thing.
Very fitting.
Yeah.
And I think our neighbors, were waiting. I mean, they wanted to see, and when they realized that we could work as hard as they did and that we were sticking with it, that they came around in their thinking.
We have a fabulous neighbor down the road, Earl Bissett, and he comes and he'll go, "You girls sure can work." And that's quite a compliment.
Yeah.
Now, Marian, what was your background?
I was a social worker
Uh-huh.
I was a probation officer in Manhattan for
Oh,
a
wow.
while, and then I came up to Massachusetts, and I worked for a community action agency in Greenfield, Massachusetts. But I'm not a person that wants to talk a lot, so that wasn't really a great fit for me. But I grew up in the '60s, and John Kennedy was exhorting everyone to do good, and lots of the people I went to school with, went into social work and psychology, that kind of thing. But I really didn't want to work for anybody, and farming seemed like the natural way to go.
Was it a mutual decision on your part to come up here, or was one of you more enthusiastic?
Absolutely.
No, we were watching farming kind of go by the wayside
Yeah.
in Massachusetts, and we watched one dairy farm after another go out of business. I think we might have stayed there, but we lived quite close to Vermont, so Brattleboro was sort of our town at that time, and that was all we knew about Vermont. We thought the farther north you got, the more mountainous it got. We didn't know anything.
We also thought that there'd be tons of people doing what we wanted to do. We thought, all these back to the landers, there's going to be people making cheese, there's going to be people, having small diversified farms and sort of sustainable where, using our compost and, for our gardens and the whole cycle. And we got up here and there was
Not
nobody.
what you found. Yeah.
No.
Yeah. How much acreage do you have here altogether with the farm?
We have 103 acres. When we first bought the farm, we only bought 30. And then we bought another 10. And then a few years ago, the piece that runs from that hedgerow was owned by the original owner when we bought this place. And he decided he just didn't want any part of it. He tried to sell it for 15 years. And he gave it back to the town. And suddenly they were selling it. And there was like a backhoe going out there one day. And we had just put our porch on. And we managed to finagle it away from the people that had bought it, so we wound up with another 70 then. So.
Good for you. Have you ever had internships with people here? Or?
No, we haven't. No.
No, that falls into the category of having people work for us.
Yeah.
And also to tell people what to do. No, we're not. No.
Yeah, you don't want to manage people.
No.
Intellectually, it seems like a great idea, and I know that we have things that we could teach people.
Yeah.
But no.
Yeah. Well, part of the reason I ask is because I shared similar feelings. Like I don't want to take on that added role. But recently we have had a number of interns at the farm, and I have a big rambling old farmhouse, so there's plenty of room for people, and they actually typically live in the farmhouse with me. And it has turned out to be one of the most wonderful experiences against my better judgment. And these young people, there's such a movement of young people that are excited about agriculture, and you guys would be I'm not trying to push it on you, but you would be models for.
I'm sure, but we don't have a
Particularly-
big rambling farmhouse.
Yeah.
Although we are working on our barn, they could stay down there.
Stay in the hay
But
mows.
but youthful enthusiasm, I think it's fabulous.
It's inspiring
I
to
mean,
me.
for so many years we wondered what was going to happen because
Yeah.
it didn't seem like the next generation was interested in it.
Exactly.
And now they're saying, okay, I see what you've done, and it was very cool what you did to look outside the box and do things differently and milk a couple of cows and make cheese. But you know what? I'm going to do that, and I'm going to make money.
Yes.
So I think
they added a new element to
Yeah,
this.
they're much more
So-
entrepreneurial. than
Yes.
we
yeah,
were.
no, it's been fabulous to see these young people starting.
Yeah, it's been very inspiring. And they bring this wealth of enthusiasm. You know, I realize I'm becoming this old codger because,
Yeah.
you know, we sit around the dinner table talking about ideas, and I'm like, that'll never work. And, and yet they're full of great. It's really what we need. I see.
Well, look,
driving
when we
up
were
in-
first starting, who ever thought, when our neighbors found out we were thinking about making cheese, they thought, oh my God, what are these girls thinking?
Yeah.
You know?
Really, and there was nobody doing
Who
it.
who
no
was
advice.
making
There was nobody.
cheese?
Nobody.
You
Not
were
even Children
literally.
Farms
We
was
were the first.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there was not a jot of advice. We called UVM and they said, oh, well, you know, we said, when do you wax the cheese? And they said, as soon as it comes out of the mold. And we're like, okay, well, they said it. And we
Against
did
our better
that, and you
judgment.
know, it's still so moist and there's no rind on it. And oh my
Yeah.
God, we lost a bunch of cheese through that.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, there was
Yeah.
no Viac or whatever.
No, I mean, we're totally self-taught. And it's kind of a funny thing. The only cheese we've ever made is our cheese. So I don't even know
Any other
how to make it.
processor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, and we don't see other people's operations much. And
Yeah.
Mm.
Yep.
But when we were putting in the cave, we went around and looked at Willow and Laney's cave. They had them then, and that. But aside from that, we've very rarely seen anything anywhere else.
Has the cave worked well for you? Is it?
It's worked great. I mean, most of our cheese is waxed. The theory being, we just wanted a regular eating, kid-friendly mac and cheese kind of a cheese. We didn't. I mean, when we first started, it's so weird to think, but like the food thing hadn't happened, so there was none of these cave cheeses. There weren't washed-rind cheeses.
Right.
I mean, you know, who knew?
Yeah.
We were going to have goats, but we didn't think anybody would eat goat cheese. So.
I picked up on was, and we were sort of in the same category. We wanted to make a cheese that was artisanal
right.
and yet affordable for people.
Yeah.
And one of the things that discourages me, you were talking about price point, is that these cheeses are so exorbitant that they only cater to a very
Right.
high-end clientele.
Yeah.
And I want to feed the world.
Yeah. Well, and we love it. I mean, we love it when our people come up to us in the co-op and go, your cheese is our family cheese. It's the cheese that we always have in the fridge. And now we have kids that were brought up on our cheese and they want their kids to have the cheese. And it's a great thing. And we love, you know, the cave cheese is great. We don't do that much because we would have to go out of state to sell it, I think.
Yeah, and it's.
You know,
I think it's changing. I think you'd be surprised. But
I know.
Yeah, no, I think we could. You know, there's also a huge amount of shrinkage on that. We put a cave cheese in the cooler. It's 14 pounds, and a year later, when we're able to sell it, it's down to 10.
Yeah.
You know, and that's a giant loss. And we kind of don't really dwell on that at all. But the bottom line is that's
where you raise your price.
Yeah,
I
you know,
know, but-
we started selling we sold the cave cheese a little bit before 2000, but that 2000 is when we really started, and we realized last year that we had never raised the price in 12 years. So we raised it $1. I mean, you know, where do you go with that? I don't want to see it over $20 in somebody's cooler. I just can't deal with that. And I feel
So tell me a little specifically about the cheeses. What are you producing, and what are the?
We produced the only cheese that we've ever made, which is our Orb Weaver farmhouse cheese. It's sort of in between a Colby and a Havarti. It's just cheese.
And
just
the
good
cave cheese is just we have one recipe. We just have 2 ways to age it. So
The cave cheese is the same
the
cheese.
exact
yeah,
Yeah,
out of
we just-
every batch we put in the cave 2 10-pound wheels and a few 2-pound wheels. So it's the exact same cheese. And
Just aged out.
yeah,
Yeah.
so the cave is a little bit warmer. And so
We get really two very different cheeses from
Yeah.
the one
Yeah.
recipe, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
yeah.
And that's one of the things I love about what we do. Same thing.
Yeah.
We add a variety of flavorings.
Hey, Zuri, come here. Come here.
I got to say, every interview we've done
The
has
dog
had
comes
a
up.
dog.
Token.
But yeah, same thing. We have an aged Gouda that we age out
Zuri,
for
come
a
here.
year,
Come here.
and
Lie down.
like you say, it's the same cheese, but we set
I
it
know.
aside in our cooler
Yeah.
and do a natural rind with it, and a lot more labor for us, but it's a wonderful
Yeah.
cheese.
Yeah. Why do you wash them?
Yeah, yeah. For well, we wash for about 5 weeks, and then typically we can let it age out, but we have to flip it and watch it and brush it and baby it.
We don't really do anything.
Yeah.
Well, we used to.
Yeah.
Used
Yeah.
to do
And
a
then we
lot.
found out when we just left it, it did really
Was
well
fine.
too. I
Yeah.
know.
Well, like the cheeses we made in May, we didn't really have time to deal with them because we were getting into the garden, and we noticed that it didn't matter what we did to them.
It's a very forgiving cheese.
Yeah. Well, that's wonderful. You're giving away all your secrets here.
I know.
Yeah.
Now,
no.
do you just before marketing? Do you have
Oh,
to
I-
brush it
oh,
down
yeah.
and
Oh,
clean
yeah.
it up?
Oh
And
yeah,
Yeah.
no, you brush them up a few
I do.
times, you know,
Yeah.
but not that same sort of.
intensity.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you said you make about 7,000 pounds of cheese a year, and you market that mostly through the Middlebury Co-op.
No, we market it through, we do a couple of places in Middlebury. We do the co-op and another bakery. And then we have maybe 4 or 5 accounts in Burlington, and that's it. We go we go to Middlebury weekly, and we go to Burlington every 4 to 5 weeks, and everybody pretty much gets the same amount of cheese, and it's
we have
fabulous.
the Shelburne Market. We have Healthy Living, City Market. It's on the menu at Penny Clues, and we just started selling to Guild, the meat place. So
Yep.
we'll see
Yeah,
about that.
so we'll.
So
that's
do you
good.
reach a point in October when you're out of cheese?
We never run
No,
out
we
of
never
cheese,
run
and
out.
that's why we limit our accounts.
You guys do it all right.
Well,
Do you tell me about some problems. I want to hear about problems. Do you have cheese that goes bad, or
we've never had a cheese go bad,
Oh,
except
stop.
when the people at the university told us to wax it right away.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And one other
Yeah.
time, we had some people coming to pick up some heifers.
Oh God.
And they wanted to come in
We
to
were
the
making
cheese
cheese.
room, and we didn't realize that they were coated with manure.
oh,
And silage.
And
It was
silage,
a
the
Oh.
smell.
silage, it was the smell of the silage. And they came into the cheese room for 30 seconds, literally.
Oh.
And then we said, out. And the cheese was still in the vat. We were getting ready to put it in the molds, and that batch, we
Was
knew,
not
like,
good.
within 2 days of it being in the cooler that it was bad. But that
Oh,
was
wow.
just the, but otherwise, I have to say,
Yeah, I
No.
think we're pretty fortunate. I think maybe because it's just us, we pay really close attention to
Yeah,
details. We're
yeah.
pretty detail
I know,
oriented.
everything's exactly the same
Yeah.
from one time to the next.
yeah. We're a little more
Yeah.
casual.
Yeah. Well, you have interns.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Well, yeah, that's probably why I mean, our it's like nothing ever changes. There's
Yeah.
no.
Oh, you would go nuts at Taylor Farm if you saw that.
Well, I think I would go nuts at a lot of farms.
Yeah.
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 No, we pay attention to our mistakes, and I think that's
You learn from your mistakes.
Well, we go through. We make mistakes a couple of times, and we try not to make them 3 times.
Yeah. Yeah.
We figure the first time we didn't know, the second time we forgot.
Like
and
you
the third
said, I
times we
understand
tried
that
it.
intellectually, but I don't
Yeah,
know.
well, but everybody's different. I mean,
Yeah.
Um,
I'm a slow learner.
Here we are in our cheese room in the summer. We're not in production now, obviously, as you look around. But when we do make in this old pasteurizing vat, and from that 1,000 pounds of milk, we make about 130 pounds of cheese.
So you have a pretty good yield.
We do.
Yes.
All jerseys.
Yeah.
All jerseys, we've been breeding for cheese production since the
Cheese,
get-go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess there's a good. We have nothing to compare it to. Although once we made our cheese out of some Holstein milk, and it was instead of being like that, the same amount of milk was like that.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. We figure about a 10-to-1 ratio.
Yeah,
For
we're
who's got a mixture.
7.5 to
Yeah.
1. Yeah.
Now, I think we talked about this before, but I think it's got to be a little entertaining to watch you pooping is.
Oh my
This
God.
fat's a little
Yes,
bit.
we are. We are hanging
have
over.
we have footstools that we stand on and we hang over the thing, and that's why I said if we continue to do it forever, we probably get a better vat or something.
Our vat holds about 4,000 pounds of milk, and it's an old vat. Peter Dixon found it for us up in Ontario.
Oh.
It's an old cottage cheese vat, actually, and no agitator. We hand stir.
Yeah.
It's just like this.
Yeah. Just bigger.
Yeah.
3 times bigger.
Yeah. And this is pretty simple. Just heated with hot water. We have a recirculating pump to recirculate the water, but that's it.
Mm-hmm. And how do you heat your water? It's all propane?
Yeah. Well, we have propane in every building, so we have a sort of a bulk rate.
How do you heat yours? You have a boiler?
We put in, about 3 years ago, we put in a wood boiler, and we heat the entire farm with the wood boiler, both our heating and our hot water. We have varying degrees of success, like my daughters get frustrated because on a cheese day we don't have enough hot water for showers down at the house, that kind of thing. So it's a little bit of a juggle. We had oil before that, and we do use that occasionally as a backup, but the primary heat is wood. We tried to think about every way we can make the farm more sustainable.
Yeah.
And we've got a lot of acreage there and a lot of woodland.
That's great.
Yeah.
And so that's a piece that works for us.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit more specifically about the dairy and the cheese making. You're milking about 10 cows?
No, we're not even milking 10, we're milking 6.
Uh-huh.
And they all freshen in November. We start making cheese right away. And it's fabulous. It's when you came and visited us, whatever year that was, we were doing it the exact same. We make cheese every Monday and every Thursday. We wash up and wax on Tuesdays and Fridays.
Mm-hmm.
And we sell raw milk, and that's been fabulous also. We have a lot of neighbors that come here. Not a lot, but some.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess I can't think of a better way to spend the winter than making cheese.
Yeah, and on the flip side, I dread being inside in the summer.
I know.
So
I know.
and cheese making, is so much cleanup, and so just we get through the winter by realizing that in the summer we're not going to be in the barn. And these last few weeks of really hot weather, every time I go out to feed the heifers, I have to walk through the barn and I see the cement sweating and the pipes dripping, and I think, oh, thank God we're not
you're not here. Yeah.
But we did that for 15 years. We did ship milk,
Yeah.
and like I said, we milked 30 cows, and we had a beautiful herd of Jersey, all registered. And when we shipped milk and we were on test, we had the 3rd high herd in the country for our size herd. So we've always loved our cows, and now we just have less and we can love them more.
Yeah, yeah. I'm amazed that I don't get up here as often as I used to, but it just seems like every time I come up into the Champlain Valley, I just get this sense that farmers are working harder, and you see farms that have gone out of business. You see, I just passed on the road this self-propelled mower that had 2 wings, had to be 30
I know where
feet.
you were.
Yeah,
You were on Monkton Road, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm like, oh, these guys are working so hard, chasing this dream.
Yeah.
And what is their quality of life?
I know.
And is it working? And is it sustainable? And how does it impact our
But
environment?
shipping milk is such an iffy thing. I mean, since the 70s, it's always like farmers are beating their heads against the wall. I mean, you don't know what you're getting for your next paycheck.
Right.
The cost of everything goes up, and you don't get that money. I mean, what kind of a job is it?
The old adage, we sell everything, we buy everything retail and sell
so-
everything wholesale.
Yeah.
And you send the milk out the door and say, give me what you want to.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Yeah,
And
that was
sure, I
sort
need a
of
new
our impetus
tractor
for stopping shipping milk, because it was so unpredictable.
But we were really tied into the milk check, and we were afraid not to
Yes.
have the milk check.
It becomes
And as soon as we stopped, and it was a little bit, we had to age the cheese before we could start selling it, but once we did, and once the cycle of that began, it was fabulous, much better than shipping milk.
Yeah.
What intrigued me, what still intrigues me, is that you guys seem to really be able to target the things that you valued in your life, and you made the business work around what worked for you.
Yeah.
And that has always really impressed me. And I found myself in a situation I was describing where, because of debt load, we just had to keep building the business. We got to a point of milking about 70 cows, and we were making 100,000 pounds of cheese a year. And, I really found myself in a place where I wasn't that happy with the choices I made.
Well, I think when Marian was saying in '95, when we decided to sell the cows, we kind of looked at each other and said, wait a minute, what was it that we wanted to do? We're milking 365 days a year. Look, all we're doing is working. What happened to the quality of life? And that really, once we asked ourselves that, we thought, we've got to do what we wanted to do, which was have a little subsistence farms, feed our neighbors. And that's pretty much what we do. We make about 7,000 pounds of cheese a year. We sell it all locally. We deliver it ourselves. And the same with the vegetables.
We were sort of determined not to have employees, so we have one person that works in our garden, and but she's more than an employee. She's a close friend, and she knows more about gardening than we do even. So, and she's worked for us for years now, I think 14 years. So it's like not a question of telling her what to do. We just we sort of turn her loose, and she knows what's happening, and that's sort of our ideal employee, because neither one of us really care to tell people what to do. We tend to like to do stuff ourselves, and in terms of the cheese, nobody except us does any of that, which is kind of good for quality control and consistency. So that's been one of our kind of guiding principles over the years. Is if you can't do it yourself, don't do it at all.
And I think the other thing was what you were saying about the debt load is that we've always been very careful. If we borrowed money for the barn, we would add a cow to pay for the pipeline or do something. But our goals have always been to pay off the loans, and so that's.
It's been my goal too.
Yeah, but you got to not take loans for that to work.
Well, up until recently, our barn was sort of falling down, and we knew we needed to do something, but we didn't want to take a loan. And then recently, we sold the development rights to the Vermont Land Trust, and so we got a little cash infusion, and part of it's going in to make the barn continue to stand.
That's been a really big thing for us, and really important thing was selling the development rights. It just.
Was that a hard decision to make?
No, it was a wonderful decision to make. We've been working with Al Carnatz at the Land Trust for, he sort of stopped in periodically to see how we were doing. And I don't think we were ready until now, but, now with retirement or old age, sort of there. Because while we don't have debt, we don't have retirement money also. So this was a nice thing to get a little bit of infusion for money and to put money into the barn and to make sure that it'll always stay in farming, which is a great thing because we don't have kids. So there's nobody like that to leave it to. So it's a great feeling.
Since you started to get into that subject a little bit, do you have thoughts for the future? You'd like to see somebody continue with the farm?
Yeah, but
well, we just went through that farm viability project, and the ostensible reason was to try to figure out what our transition to retirement was going to look like. And the upshot of our decision was we're not retiring.
We love what we do.
It's not that we can't. We don't want to. I mean, it doesn't seem like something. I mean, eventually we'll be forced into it, by being too decrepit to keep doing this. But we see, even getting smaller, like getting a more efficient cheese vat, which is, our vat is an all pasteurizing vat, so it's not really a great thing to make cheese in. And just milking a couple of cows, maybe only making cave cheese, but just the notion of not having any animals anymore sort of put us off.
we decided this is who we are. I mean, it's more it's so much more than a job. It's
It's an adventure.
Yeah, we
Oh,
are sort
boy.
of, yeah, we're going into a little beef thing too.
Uh-huh.
So and
that's been great.
that was our, originally we thought we'd, you know, eventually not have the dairy cows and then just sort of move into beef, but I'm just not ready to think that about it. You know, at some point we'll be forced into that, but as of now, we're not retiring. But it's exciting to see the young people coming into it. About 7 or 8 years ago, we had a panel discussion at the co-op at their annual meeting, and it was all vegetable growers. And we looked around and we looked at each other, and we were all like getting to that age where we knew we weren't going to want to do it forever. And we thought, where are the people coming along? And since then, we've seen that happen. But they do have a different marketing ethos. I mean, they market more directly. Wholesale was always what we did. And now a lot of people, you know, they do CSAs, they do farmers markets. And there's always a balance with that. I mean, it's a volume versus a price thing.
Right,
Like I can
right.
sell 24 cases of lettuce in a week, and I don't know what they can sell, but they make more selling what they do, but I don't think they can sell that volume. So it's a choice. And,
Yeah, and you don't have the headaches of the actual marketing
Yeah.
piece. You go drop your 24 cases
Right,
off.
I get an order, I bring it in, it's gone. I don't have to bring it home.
You don't have to sit at a farmer's market on a Saturday afternoon. And
Absolutely, but
Yeah.
it's exciting to see farming, you know, kind of making a resurgence here. And
yeah. Well, I think you have a very admirable model here, and it's
yeah, you know, and I think we have sort of really limited demands on our finances. If we had to put kids through college
Right,
or
right.
anything like that, we
Yeah.
couldn't do it.
Yeah.
I mean, we live frugally, and we make enough to get by. But if, you know, we don't travel or do any, you know,
Yeah.
anything.
Do you have any regrets about that? Do you sometimes think back, oh, if I'd done this, I could have?
No, you know, neither one of us are much for traveling, that kind of thing. So, no, we're happy here. And when we go anywhere, we always think, but look where we live.
Yeah, yeah.
So, you know, this is everybody else's destination when they're traveling.
That's
so
very
we feel
true.
blessed to be here.
Yeah. So we had a few words with Marian, but just in summary, what are your thoughts about the future of farming in Vermont? I was saying a little bit about in '75 when I started, there were 3,800 dairy farms in Vermont, and we're now down to 900. And not that dairy is everything, but it's a significant piece of the Vermont landscape.
And it is tough because, you know, land is really expensive. But I think that young people starting up have great opportunities with these incubator farms, with the farm that Chuck Ross has in Charlotte, where he's doing, you know, he's let people do greenhouses and the raw milk on his property and stuff like that. I mean, I think that the opportunities are endless. I think that young people just have to do it a little differently. But it's...
The Land Trust is working to collaborate with young farmers.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's an exciting time. And I think that, you know, young people with all these value added and different pickles and alcohol, and I mean, just tons of different opportunities.
And any regrets from your looking back over the years? Anything you would do differently, or?
No, I might say that I wish that I had saved some more money, but but besides that, not really. I think that we've done pretty well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been good.